Hi everyone, Kate here from Medway Greens. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has so far joined our Protect Medway from Overdevelopment Facebook group. I put a post out regarding an article that was written in the KM and I've shared it to quite a few groups. And I just wanted to do sort of a summary really of everybody's feelings on the subject of Medway being overdeveloped. There's sort of key areas that have been discussed across the group. I just want to kind of let you know that we are listening. We want to work with you. I don't know, you probably don't know this, but Medway Greens have been campaigning on lots of different developments on our green lands, our spaces, our agricultural land here in Medway for quite some time. And we're quite a small group, so we're under the radar most of the time. And you might see us pop up around the election time if we've managed to get enough funding to actually run candidates, etc. We kind of see now that we need to work with everyone. So we're doing an invite to all parties in Medway to join together to fight what we feel is complete and utter destruction of what makes Medway Medway, and the land that we need to survive on going forward being destroyed, not to mention the effect on the ecosystems and biodiversity. So Sarah pointed out on one of the posts about the fact that our agricultural lands aren't really respected and we don't seem to support our farmers. And you can see that going back over the different governments that have been in, that you know, farms have had a really tough time, both crop farming and animal rearing. So we want to make sure that the farmers that are operating, the orchard growers that are operating here in Medway, are aware that we do appreciate what they're doing for us and for the country as a whole. Chad has sort of mentioned the fact that we are losing our villages now. So it's all very well saying that the villages will need to take up some of the slack as well, but they will no longer be villages once those developments are built. And the fact that they're being built, Linda points out, that does impact on the wildlife, and she's so correct. You know, the biodiversity that is removed when you take away that soil, those hedgerows, and you replace it with concrete, you invite more foxes, but they can't really survive and live. They've got food sources that are easy to get to, but where do they actually put their dens? And you'll find that a lot of places in Twiddle, where I live, often find that they've got fox cubs being reared under sheds and in the most peculiar of places. And that's not what our nature should be doing. Our nature should be living in nature. Ron has talked about the fact that we've got so many empty houses in Medway. And, you know, it's about 2,000 odd homes that are completely derelict or empty and could be refurbished and inhabited before we even look at building new properties. And Kathleen, totally, social housing is one of your main concerns here, and you're right. Why are we building for-profit houses over social houses when the need in Medway is desperately for social housing and for families that are working on low incomes that can't afford the mortgages or even the rents? The rents are horrendous in Medway at the moment. And Rita talks about brownfield sites and building on them. And this comes back to you helping us and us helping you. We want to carry out a survey of all of the brownfield sites across Medway. So if you think that you've got a derelict bit of land near you, or a bit of land that's got buildings on near you, can you please message in with a location using Google Maps? You can pinpoint the exact location, because we don't feel that Medway Council's land availability document really does cover all of the brownfield sites that are available across Medway. So to have that in paper would be something we can challenge Medway Council with. So please, if you've got brownfield sites, let us know. And we were talking in the WHO group about the industrialisation across Medway. Medway historically has had quite an industrial landscape in terms of not just the dockyard and Chatham Docks, but right out into Grain, where there was an oil refinery for decades. And we've got a lot of businesses that could be using this space. If we support them, that's going to be better than housing because of the places that these are based in. They're at risk of all kinds of things that could be looked at differently if they were to be used periodically for industrialisation or storage. And I think I speak for everyone, and please say in the comments if I don't, that we don't feel that our councillors and certainly our MPs are actually doing anything to challenge the mandate for central government housing demands. Gary pointed out that the population of this country is growing and people need somewhere to live. Homes need to be built somewhere. And in a roundabout way, Gary, you are correct that the population is growing across the whole of the UK. But in Medway, our growth rate is reducing quite considerably. We're only at a 0.1% increase in population at the moment. And that, if you look at the forecast, is set to become negative over the next decade, but with an increasing number of those over the age of 70 and 75 who don't currently have the housing that they are going to need. So we need to really tackle that situation as well and look at how we can support our ageing population in Medway. Leigh points out that, or he's concerned about immigration and how that's affecting house building. And I think we need to really put in the forefront of our mind that these properties aren't being built for asylum seekers, refugees, immigrants to live in. They're being built at a profit to entice investors to purchase these properties and then rent these properties out at an inflated rent. For an example, some mortgages are 3 times as less as what's being charged in rent at the moment. So by increasing the house prices, locals can't afford to buy them, but they're forced to rent them. And for some reason, mortgage companies seem to think that we can't afford mortgages, but we can afford rents that are 3 times the price. Go figure. The whole industry is set up to make profit, and don't think it's about providing homes for people, because it simply isn't. That comes as a second-rate option to actually providing the homes to people. It's how do we get the most money? And that's why properties are built on greenfield sites, on agricultural land, is because it's cheaper. It's far cheaper to go straight into the ground than to destroy a building or dig up the concrete and replace or even renovate. So, and this isn't because they're tight profit margins, because these profit margins are humongous. The price of building a 3-bed house hasn't really changed a great deal in terms of material costs. Around about 60 to 65,000 pounds you could build a 3-bed a council home with. But those properties that are being built on these specific sites are then being sold for 300,000–400,000. So this isn't about tight profit margins. This is about making as much profit as possible at the expense of residents, both here in Medway and across the whole of the UK. James and Mary were discussing the lack of doctors and surgeries, GP surgeries across Medway, and I know Mary's been waiting since January, so I really hope that you do get an appointment soon. Now, I've got quite a serious health condition, so I'm disabled and have been shielding. Thankfully, I've been able to do telephone appointments and not needed to go physically into the hospital. But I completely agree and feel the pain of waiting a year or more for an appointment in the past. So how can we increase the size of Medway while not providing Medway's residents and new residents with the healthcare that they need? We simply can't. And the Section 106 money doesn't go anywhere near as far enough to combat against those issues. The issue of schools, I know that we have got got a new school being built up at the top of, I'm going to forget the name now, in Rainham, I've forgotten the name. But there's also a new school looking over in Who, but in the most crazy location that's going to turn that area into even more of a car parking nightmare in terms of waiting in traffic rather than actually dropping people off. And George Crozer, who's one of our High Halstow parish councillors, says that councillors, Medway councillors, do need to be held to account. So this is a call out to all Medway councillors, no matter whether you are independent, blue or red. Come along, join the group, stand up for your residents, and let's say no to the dictation that's coming from government on house building when we know the figures do not stack up. We do not need these properties. We do not want these properties. And the properties we do want, we want them to be social properties built in sustainable green ways and in the right places. So thank you for joining the group. I'm going to sign off now before I waft on for too long. And please invite your friends and family and help us to find the brownfield sites that Medway Council should be considering ahead of breaking into any new ground. Thank you and have a great day.